put on his crown. Was a cage where your soul found God. Freedom. Freedom, freedom.
What's good out there, family? It's your man sliding in here. You know, it's been a while since I've been in front of y'all, man, but you know, life is gonna life. Gotta make sure you get out there and make the donuts, pay the bills, and all that other good stuff. And when I'm getting out there, I gotta make sure I make a whole lot of it. So I got a whole lot to burn, baby. You dig what I'm saying? That's what's up. I kind of threw this show together for y'all. Because it's been a lot coming out in the news cycles and all of that, you know. So if I'm a little disorganized today, I just hope that y'all work with me, you know, and understand that I just had to get back in front of y'all because I kind of missed you a little bit. So y'all see the whole little title right here. Trump says civil rights hurt white Americans. And the 14th Amendment story, they never explained. And for you guys that always come and check me out, some of this is going to kind of be like a rehash of stuff that we talked about before with some new information sprinkled in it. What inspired me to go ahead and do this is the brother Schuler, King Schuler, comedian or whatever. Real good comedian, actually. And I look at quite a bit of his stuff. He commented on Trump today. And then we have another gentleman here. Let me go ahead and give a shout out to Schuler because I've done some of his stuff before. I think he got a Tubi special and all that. Not Tubi, Netflix or something like that. Might be Tubi, Netflix, but he doing big things, man. He said something about drug dealers not too long ago, and I was kind of he had a good point, but I think he kind of went a little far with it. But he gave an even perspective of it, and that's what's up. It's all about having a conversation. So I really enjoy a lot of his stuff and his perspectives. Got this brother right here, introverted rock star. I've looked at a number of his things before. He go hard, but got some stuff I'm gonna show on him today as well. I also got a clip of Candace Owens in here, and then I got some stuff on here from the homie Anton Daniels. I don't know if y'all seen it's been all on the internet. He went in with Corey Holcomb on his particular platform, and it got kind of wild. And he responded to some of it, but some stuff he was saying in one particular message that I got clipped in here was pretty good, you know, and I want to expound on that. But I'm going to introduce you guys to a totally different concept today. Excuse me. Let me get these comments right here. Okay, what's up, C Money? One thing about you, man, you always tap in with your family, man. And that's what's up. You tapped in quite a few times. We checking stuff out, man. I appreciate you, C Money. Real talk. And I'm happy to be missed. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, man, I miss y'all too, man, because we usually build every week. But you know how them bills come in here, man, and you got to try to, you know, do what you do to make sure you always have to stir up to the top of what's shaking. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to give y'all some different perspectives today, like I always do. But when we get ready to wrap this thing up, I want to show y'all this right here. This right here. The legal ledger. I'm going to give y'all a concept that y'all never thought about, and it's established. And with a trace history, is well documented, but it's all going to make sense. You got the private/asset on your left side. You got the law in the middle, and you got your state and liabilities. So in other words, you got private and you got public. Okay. Once I start going through this, you guys are going to understand it better. But right now, let's go ahead and slide on this first video. Like I said, some of them may be in a little bit disorder or whatever, but we're going to go ahead and work through it. And I'm going to go ahead and unwrap a lot of what's going on. But here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, just recently, President Donald Trump said that the Civil Rights Act led to, I guess, white people being treated poorly. No. First of all, let's stop with selective memory. Okay? What led to the Civil Rights Act is that a lot of white people, not all white people, but a lot of white people were mistreating citizens of America that were not white. Okay? So here's the thing. The Civil Rights Act didn't lead to people being mistreated. I'm not going to be dismissive about you feeling mistreated. Okay? The Civil Rights Act may have led to you losing what you felt like was your normal.
Now, Schuler right here is talking about privilege. He's talking about privilege, but he's speaking in reference of what Donald Trump is saying. But I feel that there's a little more to this statement. And when I'm done, I'm going to give you guys a hint at what I believe is going on. Well, actually, I'm going to show you guys what I think is going on, but I'm going to give you guys another perspective to let you see that this thing is not about white, black, or Jew. It's going to show you, and you're going to see that it's actually institutions and structures of law. And I'm going to show that to you, and that's what's going to lead to what I just showed you right here, the legal ledger. And everyone knows that a ledger is how you keep account. The whole world has been set up and put in an accounting system. But a lot of the assets, as we understand it, it started out as people. But I'm going to show this to you. So just be patient with me. Let me grab a couple of these comments because I know it's been a minute since I've been in here with y'all. Okay, okay, that's what's up. What's up with your Percy, man? What up? What up, though? East side all day, family, for sure. Okay, you still down in Dallas? Okay, I'm sure you giving them hell down there. They got good folks down there. And then you don't do nothing but make it better, family. For sure, homie. That's what's up. I'm glad to see some of y'all sliding in here, man. Like I said, it's been a minute, man. See money up in here, man. I'm just glad to have y'all in here and we getting a chance to chop it today. If y'all can't sit through it all, catch back up with it later, man, because I'm gonna drop some serious stuff off in here, man. Some serious stuff, man. What you got here? You got something else, Percy? What you got? My homies told me it's freezing. Oh man, listen here. We wasn't expecting nothing but a half an inch, maybe an inch of snow. But Mother Nature's like, listen, you jokers been getting off for the last. She went ahead and did her thing last night, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. The street's still kind of nasty up here. I've been staying out the way, but tomorrow I got to get back on that truck again, deliver that gas. So you know how that go, family. For real, for real. All right, let's jump back to it. Now, okay, I'm going to go ahead and slide on this second one. Like I'm saying, y'all, I'm going to give y'all some perspectives, and I'm going to show you, and it's going to kind of throw you for a minute, but it's going to all make sense. Now, let's slide on this next one. Oh, slid the wrong way.
The rights, privileges, and the resources of America were pushed in one direction during that period of time, where they were reserved for the white community, because that's why America was established, for white men to become rich, wealthy, and excel. That's what that was about. Let's just be honest. And if you believe differently or you think differently, then you just have never read a history book, because that's just exactly what happened. And then here comes the Civil Rights Act in the 60s, brought to you by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, whom which y'all love to throw dirt on his name so much. And all it was saying is that people who are not white males have the right in this country to participate in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without being disturbed or disrupted.
Now, here's the thing. Like I said, got a lot of respect for the brother Schuler. Real good dude, man. Love his comedy, and he brings a lot of perspective in things that he say. But sometimes absence of certain knowledge, you know what I'm saying, gives different opinions that may not be consistent with history, research history, not mainstream history. There's a difference. Give me a minute. I got my man here just slid in here. My other family. What's up, Moore? What's happening with you, baby? I see you, man. What up, though? You hit me yesterday, and actually, I was showing the guys already that I got a little concept here that I'm about to drop on, but I was saying something to Moore about it last night when he tapped in with me. Hey, Moore, this right here, man, is a concept that you ain't ready for. You seen a little bit of it in what you responded to last night, and then C Money seen one the other day when I was talking about the Candace situation with this whole ledger thing right here. I'm telling you, what I'm about to hit y'all with, man, y'all ain't gonna be ready for, but it's gonna make so much sense to you. It's gonna make so much sense to you. What's happening with you, baby mama? I see you out there. That's what's up. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get off into this other one, and then I'm about to give y'all a Jew. But what he just stated right here, I want y'all to pay attention to when he's talking about the Civil Rights Act of 1965 and so on. And then he's also speaking about the immigrants having the access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness with the immigrants. Now I'm going to show you something on that, but actually let me do this real quick. Right here. These are your dates. In 1790, that's when the United States, understand, the United States declared independence in 1776, but United States was not an independent country in 1776. The United States was not accepted universally and recognized universally in the world by other countries until the Paris Accords. I believe that was 1783, but it had to create a constitution. The Constitution was created in 1789 and ratified, if I'm not mistaken, in 1790. In 1790, you had a few things that happened. You had a First Citizenship Act that was passed. The First Citizenship Act was passed, and let me show you this right here. Right there, 1790. That's when they made British white men citizens of the United States. No one else was allowed to be a citizen of the United States, which was a new country, in 1790, but British males. Okay, now, contrary to what people say, British females were also allowed, and they were also allowed to vote only if they had land. If you were a British female, you could be a citizen and you could vote, but you had to be an owner of land. That came from Great Britain, because over in Great Britain, if you didn't have land, period, whether you were male or female, you could not vote. Now, it's important to notice this date at 1790, because at 1790, they started to put restrictions on who could come in and out of this country at that point. Okay, now there were other whites here in the country inside the United States, but they were not allowed to be citizens. Okay, now let me go back to this again so I can show you something. Now, in 1890, they opened it back up for more immigrants to start to come into the country, because you had a larger percentage of people of color, we'll just say that, in this country than whites. And they started to bring people by shiploads into the country. Italians, Germans, all Europeans, and Jews. in 1890. Okay, now the 1865 is that's your first Civil Rights Act. The second Civil Rights Act is of 1965. Noticing you starting to see 100-year increments between these changes. Okay, let me show you this. The Black Civil Rights Act was 1865. It was not. I will reiterate, it was not 1965. 1965 was 100 years from the first Civil Rights Act. 1965 is the second Civil Rights Act, and that act was not for Black Americans. That act was for minorities. Understand that. And that was them opening up again to start to let more immigrants into the country. So you have two dates. 1790 cut off all immigration and it made white British men United States citizen. That was the first citizen of the United States. No one else by law could be a citizen. It was closed. After that, they opened it back up again in 1890, 100 years from 1790. They started to bring in shiploads of immigrants into the United States, but they still were not citizens. There's only another citizen that was created in 1865. That was Black Americans. There's only two citizens that has been legislatively by Congress as citizens. That is white British males, and that is Black Americans. Notice I said Black Americans, not African American. Okay, now this is just distinctions I want to show y'all for now. We're going to come back to some of this, but it's going to be important what I'm giving you as we cook. Okay, now let's slide on to this other video that Schuler got. Pay attention, people, because I'm going to give you all the receipts. Everything that I'm telling you, you can write it down and Google it, or you can go to ChatGPT and put it in there. And as Jesus said, it's all there. It's all there. Okay, here we go. Like I said, I kind of threw this together, y'all, because I had to get in front of y'all. What is the other video? Because y'all be knowing I'm losing play. Okay, here we go right here.
Yeah. That meant if you, not just Black people, but if you are a woman, if you are a person with a handicap, there are so many people who benefit from the Civil Rights Act, even though y'all act like it's just a piece of paper that didn't say nothing. But leading to people being mistreated, no, because before that, I mean, you had such things as the Jim Crow laws and the Ku Klux Klan and, you know, so many, they were lynchings. Then it was so much. I mean, police brutality. You had so many different elements. And being mistreated in what way? Because there aren't any pictures of you all hanging from trees. Nobody burned a cross in your yard. I'm just saying. We talked about Malcolm X, Dr. King, Medgar Evers, and so on and so on. That's just me taking a little stab at it. But what do I know?
Now, it's important. This is an important distinction. When having conversation, as the brother Schuler was doing, much respect and love for the brother. And like he said, he's just tapping in, having a conversation. And that's what we need to have more of. But he was having the reasoning he was giving for the points he was making were all moral issues based on morality. The law does not recognize morality, period. There's two arguments, moral and structure. And that's two separate things. And we often mistake morality or moral concepts as law, but wonder why when law gets enacted, it comes out a different way, because law does not adhere to morality. Law can only recognize structure. Why am I saying that? When Trump said whites were being mistreated badly based on the civil rights movement of 1965, hint, hint, here we go.
1965, Hart and Seller.
That's the wrong one. Hold on, y'all. Y'all know I'm over here messing up, man. Here we go. 1965 Civil Rights Act was for who? So when he said whites were being treated wrong under he's talking about the 1965 Act. He was not talking about the 1865 Act that's exclusively for Black Americans, according to the Constitution, which I'm going to show you. And my point is, Trump saying something about that is structural. It's not moral. So when he's saying whites are treated unfairly, he's talking about programs. He's talking about government institutional situations, not moral. And I really don't think that he's exclusively talking about white people. I think he's giving you guys a nod and a hint of what to come, because this year, either spring or early summer, the Supreme Court is supposed to be ruling on what? The 14th Amendment. We're going to move to that, and I'm going to show you something. He's saying one thing because it'll be acceptable for certain people, but I think he's nodding and hinting at something else. I'm going to show. Remember the term Black American and African American. Two separate things. Okay? Here we go again. And I sound like I'm overstating the point, but I'm doing this because I'm about to show y'all something. Black American and the descendants of slaves fall under the first civil rights of 1865. African American and other minorities, including your people from Italy, your people from Germany and all that, even your Jewish people, are under minority rights of 1965. The Minority Act of 1965 had nothing to do with Black Americans. Nothing. Okay, we're going to move on, y'all. We're going to move on. And now we're going to start to move off into the area of what I've been hinting at with y'all. But we're going to dip off one. Actually, I'm going to show you 2 or 3 arguments that's going on, explain it, and then it's going to go deep. Okay, so here we go.
We have some news right now. Donald Trump told the New York Times in an interview that civil rights led to white people being, quote, very badly treated, railing against civil rights protections. He said, quote, white people were very badly treated, where they did extremely well and they were not invited to go into a university to college. So I would say, in a way, I think it was unfair in certain cases. He said that a lot of people were very badly treated due to the passage of the Civil Rights Act. He added, quote, I think it was also at the same time, it accomplished some very wonderful things, but it also hurt a lot of people that deserve to go to a college or deserve to get a job were unable to get a job. So it was a reverse discrimination. These are the most pointed comments the President of the United States has made attacking civil rights and civil rights protections, and it underscores exactly where this administration is heading in terms of policy. Spread the word because people need to know about it, and follow along, stay up to date on all the news that you need to know about. There'll be more to come soon.
As Black Americans, we've been warning everybody, Caucasian people, all the immigrants. We've been warning them about who America really is.
Now, I'm going to skip ahead. And for some of you guys, my brothers out there y'all already seen this before. But for those that have not, let me show you guys this, right? Because he said white people now, right? You know, when you fill out an application, if you white, you just check white or whatever, or right? If you African American, you check African American, right? Hold on.
Look at this. Why the hell is the FAFSA asking what type of white I am? I don't think I have ever been asked what type of white person I am ever before. I mean, this isn't a bad thing. I'm just like, when did this start happening? Because you know what I mean? Usually you just hit white and then you move on with your day. They don't have any other questions, usually. I don't know who they is. I'm thinking all the other forms I've ever filled out. Usually you just hit white and move on. Girl, my dad's adopted. I don't even know.
But I told you. What did I tell you? I told you right here, and it may sound like I'm regurgitating a lot, but I'm doing this for a purpose. I told you right here. Your first citizen was in 1790. That was British white males and females only. But I also told you that there were other nationalities of white people here. Okay? But they could not become citizens. So at one point, you was able to put white and you cool. But now all of a sudden, you seeing a government document, federal government document. Now you hit white. You got to say what kind of white you are. Okay? And I explained to you in 1890, the different forms of whites that started to come in the country because you had more people of color to balance that out under some theory. They still were not allowed to be citizen. Okay, but you're gonna say, okay, Wayne, I think you cooking up something. I am cooking. But we ain't gonna stop there. Let me show you this.
Okay, I'm up here doing my FAFSA or whatever. I told y'all I'm about to go back to school. Now, I have never, when they ask me my race, okay, of course, I'm black, African American. But now you got to specify what type of black person you are. African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Somali. Oh, y'all wrong. And I was like interested, like, okay, so now you got to break down if you're German, Irish, English, Italian, Polish, French, Chinese, Filipino, Asian, Indian, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese. I'm really just baffled.
Okay, I cut that short. Now we're gonna go back here again. I'm just walking y'all through it like I'm holding your hand. All those other groups were allowed to become citizen under minority rights, 1965. Prior to that, they were not citizens. You can recall seeing movies and the Italians were being discriminated against. They were called WAPs. And WAP mean without papers. You've heard about the Irish being discriminated against before that. You also heard about Jews being discriminated against before that because they were not allowed to be citizens. Only two citizenship class. Again, I will reiterate, 1790, British white males, females. 1865, first Civil Rights Act. Black Americans and the descendants of slaves. Only two citizens. No one else was allowed prior to 1965. Okay, let's move on. I skipped ahead to show y'all that, to just show y'all, kind of, catch y'all attention or whatever. Okay, now let's go to, there's a dichotomy that's happening. You're starting to get whites and you're starting to get Jews that are starting to appear to go at it. And each particular group is trying to pull us. You have the whites trying to pull us to their side. You have the Jews seeming to try to pull us to their side. Pay attention to this.
Wake up to your true history. I implore you to wake up. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men. Jewish people were the Jewish people. Thinks of you because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too. White Jewish people were the one. I think all of us need to wake up to this. Jewish people. You, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too. He hates all black people. I implore you to wake up.
This is not a race discussion. This is an institutional and structural discussion. But the names of races are being stated for the sole purpose of showing you a point that I'm going to show you. Why these categories of people were categorized for a reason. And pay attention to the word or distinction that I made of category for a reason. Because I'm going to show you it's a monetary reason. Going back to, and then I'm going to pick up pace a little bit. Going back to this. This is an accounting ledger. Okay? Now, notice she stated, and that was Candace Owens, she stated that slavery was not necessarily a white man's sport. And he kept emphasizing on Jews, right? But I challenge anyone to go through history anywhere and find where a Jew invaded any country and took any land from anyone. And an example of that, and I voted for Trump. I'm just admitting it. I voted for Trump. But an example of going in someone country taking something is similar to what Trump did over there in Venezuela. And what he talking about doing with Greenland. That was being done after 1492. And 1492 is when they made certain people, by definition, legal definition, made you property or a commodity to be entered into an accounting ledger. Whoa, whoa, hold on, I got you. Now, here's another clip.
The bad history between Zionists and African Americans.
People don't realize who brought the slaves to America. They were Jewish ships.
First, as the vast majority of slave ships that crossed the Atlantic was actually owned by them. And as they were top of the shipping, they also had top priority as first customers. And they were so involved in the slave trade and the slave auctions that if a slave auction actually fell on a Jewish holiday, it was postponed. Then later in American history, most African American civil rights organizations like the NAACP were created by and led by Zionists such as Joel Spingarn, who actually worked in military intelligence. He was a military spy. He was one of the founding fathers, and they named the NAACP Merit Award that they give out every year after him, still to this day. That's right, the NAACP Merit Award is not even named after a black person, but a Zionist. And black people were not even allowed to lead in the top position of the NAACP until decades after it was created in 1955 by Roy Wilkins. And still to this day, all African American civil rights, all their organizations and all their movements are not allowed in any way to be anti-Semitic. Not just in civil rights organizations, but even in black media.
Now, the dates that he stated there, found another civil rights thing, 1909 or something like that. Most people don't know that the Anti-Defamation League, which is for Jews, was created in 1913. So you will see a lot of the movements that the Jewish people made were consistent with what they were helping set up for us. I stated that for a reason. But notice you have all this propaganda now out suggesting that they're the reason for slavery. No one said they didn't make some money, but they were not the ones that created the laws or the structures. Okay, and I'm stating this specifically for a reason so you will know the truth and make your own discernments. Okay, now I'm about to play something now. Remember, I told you to pay attention to the distinction of Black American and African American, because it means two separate things. Here we go.
I mean, I know they all want to be us. Hold on, did y'all ever catch this old video of Donald Trump saying that he wants to be black? This video is almost impossible to find. In fact, they deleted it off of YouTube. Y'all think I'm playing? Look, they really deleted it off of YouTube. I did always find it funny that Donald Trump's wife's name was Millennia, like melanin, and now he's saying that he wants to be black, y'all. Look at this, listen to this.
Great, I've said on occasion, even about myself, if I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
I love the black community, and I've done more for the black community than any other president. And I say, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
Y'all, he didn't even say Obama's name. Y'all think he's throwing shots at Obama? Oh my God, I told y'all he didn't do nothing.
Bled on the battlefields of the American Revolution, and they really did. When you read the history, what they gave up. They gave everything to smash the chains of slavery and preserve our nation, and they did it with incredible bravery. They helped win the Wild West, tame the skies, and save freedom in the Second World War. They're warriors. From the very beginning, black Americans have been a vital part of the American story, helping to make this the greatest nation in the history of the world.
So what we gonna do about it? Sit back and watch, y'all. This is the fall of Babylon. I've been telling y'all the shift is here, and Donald Trump wants to be black, y'all.
Black Americans, not African American. The man said Black American. Now, the first footage where he said, you can see he was younger, that he'll become a black businessman and all that. Again, he's not speaking moral. He's speaking structural. That being was when the whole lawsuit thing went on, I believe in California, where he was sued for discriminating against blacks and all that. That's the speech that he made. And what he was saying structurally, if I knew then what I know now, basically, and I could come back, I'll come back as a young black businessman. Why? Because there are laws in place that protects you explicitly, not implied, explicitly. That's what he was saying. But don't stop there. Hold on. I got something else for you.
If you look at it that way, the case isn't all about slavery. And even look at the dates on which it was signed. It was right at that era, right after the Civil War. And if you look at it that way, the case is an easy case to win. And I hope the lawyers talk about birthright, citizenship, and slavery, because that's what it was all about. And it was a very positive, it was meant to be positive. And
the 14th Amendment was for slavery. Black Americans and the descendants of slaves. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. The second Constitution was exclusively for Black Americans and the descendants of slaves. But he's saying for birthright citizens, the babies of slaves. Now hold on, because it's going to be something about you about to see about the Supreme Court. And you about to have one of our great sages and elders. My cousin, Dr. Claude Henry, I'm about to say Dr. John Henry Clark, but Dr. Claude Anderson. Break it down simple for you. Here you go.
And has no rights get eradicated. We're going to also enact civil rights laws. They tried to write the 1865 Civil Rights Law and again in 1867, strictly and solely for black people. The civil rights laws in this country were put in a place only for black people, nobody else. Whites had all their civil rights, in the 1st through the 12th. And all the immigrants coming to this country that are viewed and classified as whites got it in the 1 through 12. All Asians coming to this country, Hispanics and Arabs coming to this country who are classified as whites, they got their rights in the 1 through 12. Women got all their rights through the 1 through 12. Gays and homosexuals got their rights in the 1 through 12. But the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment was written strictly and solely for black people, period. Nobody else. And so, and that's what it was for. And what they said is that black folk must minimally have some access to some resources to be a competitive people.
Now you heard what he said. Everybody outside of black people that became citizens under what? 1965, minorities got the protections under the 1st through the 12th Amendments, and they're classified as white people. Why? Because in 1790, only white people were allowed to be citizens, British white, but they expanded the definition of white to include other people. And they fell 1965 under minority. Could that be what Trump was talking about? Because he told you under 1865, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments was what? Only for Black Americans and the descendants of slaves. So was he wrong, Trump, by stating that they've been done bad? He didn't say that they was done by Black Americans. He's talking about the Civil Rights Act of 1965 and those that are recently, based on history, now classified as white. But you got hurt too if you're a Black American, because the heaviest burden financially was placed on you. And I'm about to show you that in a minute as well. But let's not stop. So I'm telling you, his statement toward whites was an ambiguous statement, if that's the right word. Two-sided. The other side is for those that know, as we say, if you know, you know. Let's move on to what Dr. Claude had to say additionally.
Now, by 1868, 69, some whites down in New Orleans from the meatpacking industry says, well, let's go out of the 1 through 12 amendment. Let's go over into the 13th and 14th amendment and use all those amendments that's set aside for black folk. Why can't we use them? And so they filed a lawsuit in 1869 saying we want to be able to use all those amendments for black folk. And that was they went to the Supreme Court. They got into the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a major ruling in 1872 called the Slaughterhouse case, which says that no white person or anybody else is entitled to use the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And those civil rights laws was written strictly and exclusively for black people. That's called the Slaughterhouse case of 1872. And then later on in 1879, the Saunders case said the same thing, that the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment civil rights laws were put in place to protect the ex-slaves in America, the black population. They should not be entered by anyone else and be misused, because if you let other people use it, that's how whites come up with this thing about, if you're going to try to take back what we took from you, that's reverse discrimination. So that's why it's a joke to have all these other groups coming here being classified as immigrants and white immigrants, and again, being able to use the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment. That was strictly for black folk and ex-slaves. If they're not ex-slaves, Native Americans, ex-slaves, Black Americans, ex-slaves, they have no entitlements of the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment of the civil rights laws.
You're hearing that. You heard it right there. So Trump saying that birthright citizenship, no, was for the descendants of slaves or the babies of slaves. What he's starting to do is strip away the rails of the structure that has been holding things in place that are not constitutional. And he's tipping his hand to something's about to go down. Because if the Supreme Court, or I'll say when they rule that he's correct, they're not going to say it flat out, he's right in it. They're going to say it in a roundabout way. And what it's going to do is going to open Pandora's box for all type of lawsuits to be filed on everything. And you're going to see the rolling back of all those civil rights, 1965 civil rights amendments or judicial, because it was not done by Congress, judicial structures or the judicial, what's that word? It's not status. The word escapes me. Statute. The judicial statutes that gave all these extra liberties. And you always hear him talk about what? Activist judges that expanded a lot of these things. He's stripping it away so you can come back and sue. All the aid, we just saying something about the whole food stamp thing. When he redid that, you start seeing a lot of foreigners was getting stamps and this and that and the other, and all that's about to be cut out. I have no problem with no people, foreigners, or none of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just stating what's going on. And I'm going to show you something else eventually, but hold on. I ain't done yet.
Is that the immigration policies and civil rights laws in this country have been misused and abused. And
let me stop for a minute. You heard where he's going, but listen to what he said, what he says about the Supreme Court.
Is that the immigration policies and civil rights laws in this country have been misused and abused, and the primary perpetrator of that has been the United States.
I'm sorry, I had to cut it off again. Pay attention to that and pay attention to what he says about the Supreme Court and the authority that Congress gave them and what authority they have been taking. Pay attention because I'm going to expound on that.
Is that the immigration policies and civil rights laws in this country have been misused and abused, and the primary perpetrator of that has been the United States Supreme Court. And here's what I'm saying about the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court is a guardian of racism in this country. Their primary responsibility, all the way back since they were appointed in 1803, was to be able to misuse and guard and maintain slavery and the subordination of black folk in the country. And that is in violation of the 13th and 14th Amendment. The United States Supreme Court has no right to overrule anything pertaining to black folk in terms of rights, obligations, privileges, and reparations. They have no rights. Their rights are restricted to being in ambassadorial appointments and relieving people who have violated their oath of office in the federal government and a federal job or in a lower case ruling. That's it. And so black folk need to understand and sort of reverting back and saying we're reclaiming our rights and privileges and recognition in the 13th and 14th Amendment and the civil rights laws. That's our laws, nobody else's. And cease and desist allowing anybody to come in this country saying that they have a right to the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment and the civil rights laws. Those civil rights laws have been corrupted. They were corrupted all through history. Those civil rights laws have been corrupted. They were corrupted all through history. They were corrupted in the 1960s. They were corrupted in the 1960s. They were corrupted in the 1960s when black folk again let everybody come in and proclaim them to be, say we're entitled to, we got 14th Amendment rights. We got rights to this and that. You don't. If you're not black, you had no rights.
You hear that? He telling you they were corrupted, and he told you where they was corrupted at. Your rights as black Americans, descendants of slaves, was corrupted in 1960s. He's referring to 1965. People coming in the country and claiming your right that you receive under 1865. That is the first Civil Rights Act. 1965 is the second. 1865, first Civil Rights Act that began the Reconstruction period. Reconstruction of what? Reconstruction of America. Listen to me now. And then he told you that the guardian of slavery and the protector of the slave institution is the Supreme Court. And he told you they did not have rights to rule on anything having to do with Black people. And the 13th, 14th Amendment, which is classified as the second Constitution exclusively for you, Black American, key Black American, and the descendants of slaves. But Congress, not Congress, but the Supreme Court took on extrajudicial authority that was not given to them when they were created by Congress. And this can be found in the Marbury versus Madison case, was the first case where the Supreme Court chief judge made a ruling on a law being, a certain law, I forgot the law, being unconstitutional. That was the first time. Congress knew that they were not supposed to do it, but no one challenged it. Your first, I think he said in something else, was it 80-something Supreme Court justices were racists and owned slaves? They are guardians of it. So now he's going to them, telling them to decide. But why do you think he tell them to decide? Why do you think the Supreme Court keeps ruling every way that he wants them to rule? Do you think maybe because he gonna come out and tell them that they don't have the jurisdiction or the right to rule on these things they've been ruling on for the last, what, 150 or 100 and what? Well, damn it, what, like 200 years or so now? And you know he'll do it. Because that's still an unsettled issue, an unanswered question. To this day, ChatGPT, Marbury versus Madison, and do the Supreme Court have the right to strike down or declare laws that Congress passed as unconstitutional? And you will see it for yourself. So what is Trump really doing? But let's not stop there. Let's keep rocking. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna try to move a little faster on y'all because we done been in here almost 52 minutes. I'm trying to, but some stuff you just can't discuss quick, man. You got to take it step by step. So here we go.
Line, but I see what Trump doing. He's saying during the civil rights movement, Caucasian people was treated badly. They was treated badly. Come on, bro. Everything our people went through, but I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to rage bait us. He want us to get mad, go back in the streets. But those days are over, dog. We see your play. We know ourselves. We know our history.
Anti-Blackness was a global propaganda tool because they knew that Black people were the biggest threats to the empires that they were trying to create. The reason that Black people are constantly attacked more so than any other minority group is because we are the group of people that have the power to tear all this crap down. We're not the type to assimilate, and they know that. And we are the exact proof that everything that they've said about the United States is a lie. And they know that. So the way that they keep this lie going is by rewriting history and teaching that to their white counterparts. But they know that their time is up. So I'm just waiting.
And look, she was right. She was right. We know ourselves, bro. We're not the perfect group of people, Black Americans. We're not perfect. But each year, bro, if you pay attention to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, each year, bro, we are waking up more and more and more. They don't like that shit.
Now, I'm about to take y'all through something. Hold on. So I'm about to drop a lot on you. You heard everything that she stated and how Black people are important and how basically everything will fall apart without us and all that. But again, she's speaking from the moral perspective. Everything will be taken down, and people start thinking if we rebel, it has nothing to do with that. It's on the structural side. What does she mean? This is what she means. If you notice, when I told you about 1790 and 1865, the two descriptions was white and black. When your migrants came in, you heard Dr. Claude Anderson say they were classified as what? White. By what? Structure, by law. So there's only two distinctions, white and black. Where did those two distinctions come from? Those two distinctions came from the edicts, plural, of demarcation. 1452, 1492. In 1492, the land that they call Spain was first named Spain. It was never named Spain prior to that. And 2 years after that, it's a gentleman named, last name started with a P, but first name I can't, is Italian, Luca. They say he created the double entry accounting. Double entry accounting. Hold on, because here we go. Double entry accounting means you must enter things twice. So if Moore's still out there, I gave him $500, one side of the ledger will have to say that I took $500 from where I took it from, and then the other entry will say it was given to Moore. And let's say Moore turns around and gives to C Money or Percy $200 of that. Moore would have to enter that he took $200 from himself and that it was given on the other side of the ledger to Moore. And if you notice, the law is in the middle because the law arbitrates. The law arbitrates what? The law arbitrates so there is no commingling between the two sides of the ledger. Now, I'm about to show you something else. Actually, I'm going to show you. Well, should I show you this first to make it simpler? Hold on, y'all. Wax, that's coming at the end. The Catholic Church, since they say that 1 to 2 years after 1492, 2 years after that they created double entry accounting, based on a trace history, I say no. It was created before then. How do I know that? Because the Catholic Church was selling what's equivalent to pardons, but they were selling the rights for people to sin. And they received indulgences. Today they call them pardons. If you pay so much money, you could also pay to get your relatives out of hell into purgatory, all that. Now, what were they doing? The modern day understanding of white European, that's key, did not have no money. What they had was armies. And they exploited the Jews. And they made the Jews finance their conquest and all of that. And they cut the Jews in on what they stole. Since they financed and paid them back in interest. And whenever they borrowed so much money for them and couldn't pay them, they kicked them out and robbed them and all other kind of stuff. So people say today, how come Jews, this, that, and the other, which has nothing to do with that. What I'm about to tell you is when they did the documents of discovery, they made two categories, white and black. Oh, damn, well, black. And blacks were written in as commodities, property. And you were entered into the, where's it at? Into the accounting ledger as a commodity and asset on the left side, the private side. So therefore, any of your property or your being or anything of your land was entered on the left side under the private side as an asset that they could borrow against. Who were they borrowing from? Y'all see what I'm saying now? So that's why you were labeled as property, because they had already taken over Europe and they had nothing else. They had to go out and start to take other stuff. And they had to return the money that they were borrowing. And you were the only people around the world that owned everything. So you were classified as a commodity of exchange to borrow against. And we already know who they were borrowing from. Now, the other side is the public side. On the public side exists nothing but liability. And in this sense, the debit side is the private side. The public side is the liability side. And the world was placed on a ledger. But the ledger system would change once the Atlantic world was created. The Atlantic world is nothing. I will reiterate this. The Atlantic world is nothing but a ledger. An accounting ledger to keep track of everything, to pay out to those that invested in the beginnings of what was created, to make sure everything and the funds go to the proper places. Talk to me, brother. Talk to me. I'm dropping something heavy on you. Okay, now that you have that in mind, we are going to move on. I'm going to give you an example. Pay attention to this. When it starts talking about the names of people being changed and all of that, because those are accounting entries. And look at the papers that they're writing the people's names on. Here we go.
Black Americans, who are actually the indigenous Americans who were enslaved on their own land here in America, came here by ship. But the truth is, it was Europeans who flooded this land by the boatloads. Ship after ship, wave after wave, they poured into the Americas, not enslaved, but seeking land, freedom, and fortune. By the 1700s, tens of thousands of settlers from Ireland, Scotland, and Germany crossed the Atlantic. Philadelphia became the largest port of entry, followed by Baltimore, Charleston, and Boston. They came for farmland, religious freedom, and new beginnings, entire families stepping onto land already inhabited by indigenous nations. But while newcomers were building new lives, indigenous Americans, the original people of this soil, were being erased on paper. Laws and census rolls worked hand in hand to bury their identities under new racial categories. Children documented as Indian in one generation were suddenly labeled mulatto or colored in the next. In just a few decades, millions of indigenous bloodlines were hidden in plain sight. The 19th and early 20th centuries brought an even greater surge. Between 1892 and 1954, more than 12 million Europeans, Italians, Polish, Russians, Greeks, Germans, Jews, and others passed through Ellis Island alone. Other ports like Galveston, Boston, and New Orleans received thousands more.
They boarded in many parts of Europe and in many kinds of vessels, most to New York and some to other ports. But they had one thing in common. They were traveling steerage, and the steamship companies understood the profit in numbers.
By 1900, over 30 million Europeans had entered the Americas. They came freely by the millions, reshaping the population and rewriting the demographic story of this land. But as ships unloaded their passengers, another story was being buried. The people already here were being renamed, reclassified, and pushed out of history. This history matters because it changes everything about how we understand identity in America. If we only believe that so-called Black Americans came here solely as Africans in chains, although they were on this land long before any European or African set foot here, we accept the lie that they have no ancestral claim to this land. But the records, the reclassifications, and the lived history tell a different story.
You've seen those ledgers? And they tell you that the ledgers is to keep count of who's coming in and who's coming out. Those are accounting ledgers. Those are ledgers to keep track of the property or the commodities of exchange. To borrow against. I told you, 1790, British, first citizen. Males over here, females as well, of Britain. And then they shut it down. They didn't allow nobody else in. They opened it back up again. What did I tell you? 100 years later, what did she say? 1892. Between 1892 and what, 40 or 50, 31 million or something of that nature came in. She told you where they came from. And then they turned around and gave them citizenship under minority, but they still had to classify them under the initial 1790 as white because they could not classify them as black under the second constitution. The reason why they couldn't is this. 1 through 12 are rights implied. 13 through 15 are rights explicit. Example, I invite you into my house. You come in. When you come in my house, you're going to be able to sit down, maybe get you a drink of water, and you need to use the bathroom. That's implied. I never said you could do that. But your friend comes in when you come, but he has an understanding with me, and I say when you come in, you can sit down, you can go to sleep on the couch if you like, and when you come, I'll serve you, you can eat, you can sit down at the table, ... Both of you come in. Both of you sit down. The one gentleman lay down. You try to lay down. I say, you can't lay down. Wait a minute. Why I can't lay down? You can't lay down. And if you want to lay down, you got to give me $5. Time to eat. You come in to eat. The other gentleman sit down. He gets a plate and he sits down. You get your plate. I tell you, you can't sit down. You got to stand up. And if you want to sit down, you got to give me another $5. Because your right that you came in the house expecting is implied. It was not explicit. But the other gentleman that came in, his rights is explicit. Black people rights under the second constitution was explicit. Why was it explicit? Because the Dred Scott's decision of 1857, if I'm correct, said that there was no rights that a black had that a white man was obligated to follow. Why? Because the law did not recognize you as a person, well, a human. So when Congress came along with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, they had to make your rights explicit so there could be no shenanigans. So he labeled you a person. A person when before you were a commodity or a thing of exchange. Natural born, human, made by God. That definition, and you can Google this, of person, you look it up now, and the legal definition, they'll say corporation, entity, and all that. But if you look it up between 1866 and 1868, it will tell you natural born person of flesh and blood. After that, the definition of person changed. Excuse me, y'all. So, let me get this comment. Okay, Donna Drake. What's up, Primo? What's happening with you, baby? Been reading all the books. Sending. Okay, Bad Rules. What's up with you, baby? Appreciate you, and appreciate you for grabbing the book, man. I hope that you enjoying it. And hey, man, leave me a review. Leave me a review. Quite a few people didn't grab the book, but a lot of people don't leave a review. So if you could, man, please leave a review of whatever your opinion is. And once again, brother, I appreciate you. For sure, I appreciate you. Excuse me, y'all. My voice is getting dry. Okay, let's move on because I don't want to stay too long on this. But you've seen the people, immigrants coming in and out, and you've seen the name changes. The names were changing because they were reclassifying them. They could not call you by your original name because then you would have certain rights under that name. So the whole thing was to be able to leverage you and place debt on you. So they had to put you as an account entry that was different than what it was initially. Why? Because you were already on a ledger under the agreement that the British had with the Vatican. That was a different ledger. That ledger is under the Indo-European agreement. Indo-European is not today's modern day white understanding of European. And you can enter this in the chat. You can enter this in the chat. State the modern day understanding of white European. Because if you put European in, European also could mean the Indo-European, which is the genetic father of the modern day understanding of white European. The Romans, the Greeks of history were not today's modern day understanding of white European. They were Indo-European. That's important. Not, like I say, this is not a race issue. This is not we're talking about structure. We're not talking about, we say two things, moral and structural. We're talking structural. We're talking legal. All other stuff people say, this race, this, that. That's that moral stuff. The law does not recognize that. That's why in accounting on the ledger, the entries have to be entered in a certain way. When you look at all the documents of people coming in the country or whatever, or the reclassification of Indians as black, as mulatto, that's because those are the entries that have to be made for accounting purposes. Okay? I got another comment here, and I'm gonna move on. I only got like a few more, y'all. Oh, Drake, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you taking your time to leave that comment, your review of it, my brother. I really appreciate that, and thank you for the compliment, family. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
BET, Black Entertainment Television, the entire black music industry, all the movies, all the sitcoms, that is all Zionist owned, and they profit off on that too. No one but your own people should own your media. All of African American media belongs to African Americans, and that should be handed back to them. With Zionist control over the press and education system, Zionists only portray black history in a very negative way, constantly reminding them that they were slaves and nothing else. Most black people don't even know of all the great achievements they've had in the past, even that they were the pharaohs and leaders of the Egyptian empire in the last 200 years of the empire. And go ahead, look up the black pharaohs. There's many statues in history about that, but most African Americans don't even know about that. The BLM movement itself had co-chair directors Susan Rosenberg, the one who made sure that everyone was a highly trained Marxist, and who was directing their money and their politics. And just like the NAACP, they were only maneuvering them around for their own benefit, hijacking other people's civil rights for their own benefit and motivations. Zionists hate all of us. They use all of us against each other in one big giant political chess game. Don't ever fall for this. Everybody, don't be tricked, don't be ruled, and don't be controlled by them. See who your real enemies are. And keep exposing the truth and exposing real history too.
Now he's saying they're hijacking other people's rights. But he looks like his family could came here between that time of 1892 to 1950. And he got classified under 1965 Civil Rights Act for minorities. He hijacked them as well. And what he should be doing is thanking the Jew. This is the reason why. Here we go. Let me take you here. And like I said, I'm gonna wrap up in a minute, y'all. Martin Luther King is right there with all Jewish people. Right there. Okay? I also told y'all before that Thurgood Marshall, when Thurgood Marshall went in and argued Brown versus Board of Education and all those historical cases before he ended up on the Supreme Court, he used an idea. The idea, not verbally, but it was a concept. If you can't do it to a dog, you can't do it to a Negro. What am I saying? The Jewish attorneys that was in the NAACP, and you know they created it, as the past video already said, they created it. The Jewish people were there working with blacks. And they said, we can use the actual rights for animals because they had rights of what couldn't be done to them. And the theory would be, if you can't do it to a dog, you can't do it to a Negro. And those were the basis. Your rights under the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments at that point, because of what Thurgood Marshall did, and you could also say Martin Luther King, they ended up making your exclusive right into a human right. That's why you see all the minorities now saying is equal protection under the law, equal protection under the law. What Trump is saying, the 14th Amendment, that's supposed to just be for Black Americans and the descendants of slaves. Why? Because, again, 12, 13, 14, 15 are rights exclusive, but explicit. The rights 1 through 12 are rights, but they're implicit. Your rights are explicit. The first one that started to commandeer on your rights were corporations. You didn't know that, did you? They started to come in on your particular rights. And it was the activist judges that allowed them to do it and allowed them to also be protected under the 14th Amendment. Your rights are the most valuable ones. Okay, and that's why, as Dr. Claude Anderson said, in a slaughterhouse case, you had other individuals that was trying to get in on the rights. In the slaughterhouse case and the Sanders case said, no, those rights are exclusively for Black people. But we didn't know we already had civil rights. Nobody told us. So we out there marching and we out there on the front line. Nobody wasn't out there with us because we didn't know that we was doing that for somebody else. That's why Martin Luther King said, I feel that I've led my people into a burning building or burning whatever. Because he figured it out then. But I personally believe Thurgood Marshall already knew. But they had to have your agreement. That's why you were important to be there, to appear to agree, because of what Dr. Claude Anderson say. You have to start going to the court and suing and say, these rights are only for us. And cease and assist using it for anyone else. We didn't do that, but they needed us there to appear to agree. That gave permission. That's why you're hearing everything about delineation. Because we're saying that we're owed certain things, but the law don't recognize moral or morality or any of that type of issues. It only recognizes structure. right now, you keep claiming you're African American, which includes everyone of a darker hue. That means there's no specific group that has a claim. That's why you keep saying we got to do a study. We got to do, because there's no specific injured party. You're claiming to be everyone. I'm claiming for a minority. Now you know what minority means. It does not mean you. That's why you can't be paid, because the law recognizes an individual, because that individual defined has to be entered into the ledger, because it has to show where the money comes from and where it went. But if you're claiming to be the whole world, we got to do a study. We got to do a policy. We got to create a program. That's what's happening, people. That's what's happening. Okay, let me go ahead and try to move through the rest of these rules. I know I keep saying that, but I'm gonna go ahead and move through them quick now. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I think civil rights are for blacks. See that?
Pay attention. Black American, African American, pay attention.
Oh, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. That's why the Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics, because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But
the reason people are concerned about the words they use, the reason Americans care about civil rights, the reason we are sensitive to racism is for one issue and one issue only, and that is how black Americans were treated in this country. It is because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Those do not compare. Irish, the new groups, they always get a little bad treatment. Do not compare that to how blacks are treated in this country. You don't get to piggyback on the black experience in America. You do not get to do that just because you are a woman, an immigrant, gay, Hispanic. No, the rest of you can go F yourselves.
Mic drop. Hold on. Now, we're going to go ahead and move toward the close of this thing. But I need to show you how your rights of Black Americans and the descendants of slaves has been used for everyone. But also understand, you see now what Trump mean by the civil rights of whites have been, because they are classified, the minorities are classified under protections of 1 through 12. And then you had civil rights leaders and the preachers that came in and okayed them to be able to use our rights too under the second Constitution. Here we go.
The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leaders.
You heard that, man. You heard him. He knew what was going on the whole time. But you heard him. You heard him. Why were they doing that? Because they needed to increase the amount of leverage in the accounting ledger. That's why. They had to be able to make these people persons, to place the debt on them. But now it's no longer needed. Now you have them getting ready to do the ICE thing and all of that. And this is something that he did when he first entered office, and he extended it. Look at this. You see that? That man knows something. And see, this is what you also need to see. You also need to see this right here, because this is what you don't know. That's the act, right? The name of the act right there that Lyndon Baines Johnson signed that benefited the new citizen under 1965 Civil Rights Understanding. Again, two original citizens, 1790, 1865. This is your second constitution, exclusively for the people that were just made citizens, and their rights were explicit. Y'all see what I'm saying? This is what you got to understand right here. The changing of the names and all that is for accounting purposes only. And the law is there to guarantee outcomes. The law is there to guarantee that the outcomes of the ledger do not commingle, and that the funds that are supposed to be brought, they're brought and they accounted for and given to who's supposed to get it. I explained Black Americans, or blacks, excuse me, y'all, were entered the accounting ledger on the asset side. Property can't own property. So any property that you own, your property. So property can't own property. So all of your property, including your actual body, was placed on an accounting ledger as a commodity of exchange that could be traded and all that, and also can be insured and be leveraged against, because they had to pay their financiers. You were written into the doctrine of discovery, doctrines of discovery, whites and blacks. Blacks as property, whites as, I forgot what they're classified as, but they could petition institutions. They could sue and be sued. They were under a hierarchy system. They could be forced to pay taxes, and they could be punished under the law. But the thing was, they could petition institutions. Institutions is what was created to finesse the finances that would go into the ledger, that would then go to those that invested, or that people in charge were borrowing money from. The Jewish people were not written into that description. Whites and blacks in the doctrines of discovery that became the Atlantic world and basically encapsulated the whole world were determined categories. The Jewish people are indeterminate. In determined categories, you have certain protections, either protection because you are my property, or protection because you have the right under hierarchical system as maybe middle management, and it's in my interest for you to have certain protections because it affects my money. That's the reason the Jews could be robbed and everything could be done to them, because they were not in the two categories. One category could petition an institution. The Jewish category, since they're undetermined, can negotiate directly with the institution, but they're not protected. They got protection from Black Americans and the descendants of slaves, because they got protection with you. That's why they worked with us, because prior to then, they could be robbed. Anything could be done to them by the government, and it could not be done to you under the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. Corporations got protection under the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. That's why they paid lawyers to manipulate judges, activist judges, however they manipulated them, to expand those protections to corporations too, and it became personhood. Okay? And right here, the 14th Amendment heist, legal persons. Corporations became legal persons, but the word persons, as defined by the 13th, 14th Amendment, were only for, as you see on the opposite side, okay, let me go ahead and wrap up. I think I got like about 3 left. Now, this is Anton Daniels going in pretty hard, but he has a point. He has a point. He has some very, very good points, even though I'm totally agree with how he's saying it. He going in hard, but he has some very good points. Check it out.
Nigga, they got Brandon Johnson in there posturing for y'all, making y'all feel like he doing something because you want a nigga that look like you instead of a nigga that's gonna give you an opportunity to run up a bag so you can change the trajectory of your children's future. Fucking up your family, fucking up your money, tethering you with all of these student loans and you going to their universities. Your HBCUs wasn't even founded by black people. Your HBCUs wasn't even founded by black people. The fuck you focus on a piece of paper. You looking for affirmation for a group of people. Spelman wasn't even founded by a black person. Gave that to their daughter to make themselves feel good about you so you can give you something. I'ma help these niggas. You don't need no help, nigga. We survivors. We winners. The only way that they keep you down is by keeping you ignorant and they keep you distracted.
Spelman, and as well as HBUs, were not founded by black people at all. The NAACP was not founded by black people at all. It was founded by the Jewish community. The Jewish community has helped us out quite a bit, but they've also helped themselves like good businessmen. So don't allow anyone to tell you, because they never came and took nothing from you. Now they invested in it, and some by force, and I can show you the history on that, because the European, modern day understanding of white European, not the people, the kings, queens, and the aristocratic houses of Europe were the ones that created this structure. And you either loan me the money or I'll take it, and which they've done a number of times as well. Okay, here's Anton Daniels again. Important stuff that he's saying. I don't agree with what he's saying about the gays and all that because I don't have a dog in that fight. But listen to this, and I got like, 3 more, and I'm gone.
Stop looking up to these niggas that don't know shit. We are not liberal. We are not the party of gay people. We do not fuck with illegal migrants coming into the country and taking what our ancestors died for. I told this disrespectful that we got less than 20% voter turnout rate and we need to be more involved in our local communities. Nigga giggled like a schoolgirl. Man, what the fuck y'all talking about? This nigga don't know shit. You do the easy shit. You pander. Y'all panda bears. I say the uncomfortable shit that I know that the majority of people is gonna feel some type of way about it, but it don't matter because the truth is the truth. It's not my truth. It's not your truth. It's not how I feel. It's the truth. We are not a gay, liberal people. Stop following these white people, these liberal white people, these white men and white women that's out here protesting for Somalis. We don't even... They advocating for a group of people and they using you as the poster child. That's how they pass through this diversity, equity, inclusion bullshit and feminism, and they use black women as the poster child for it in order to get themselves through. White women are now considered a minority. White women are now considered a minority because they're a woman, and they use black women for it. They hijacked the civil rights movement. They hijacked the civil rights movement. They hijacked the civil rights movement. They hijacked the civil rights movement in order to push through feminism. They gave you Obama. He gave you a gay agenda. And then they said diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now they say brown and black. That's why I don't identify with that. I start quoting Emancipation Proclamation, talking about Abraham Lincoln and how he was Republican and the freedom of black people. 14th Amendment. You really want to talk about the history of our party? The transatlantic slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, the truth about slavery, all of this shit. He don't want to dig into that shit. Y'all don't want to hear that shit. Y'all want to be pandered to. You want to tether yourself to the federal government so they can tell you what the fuck to do. We got all black cities, majority black cities, Memphis, Detroit. All of these cities is our cities. Ran by us, the police chief, the superintendents, the people that run the public schools, the mayors, everything. And we got a less than 20% voter turnout rate. We letting everybody else tell us what to do in our own cities. Fuck the national election, nigga. You can control what happened right under your feet. Paying property taxes, letting Chicago rip y'all off and push y'all off y'all property. That's why they call it Crook County.
Paying property taxes in black cities. Paying property taxes. I'm in Detroit, black city. Paying property taxes. But hold on. Check this out.
Chaldeans in Detroit run all the shops. Chaldeans run the they own the and it's because they come from the liquor store and the cell phone game. So by them owning liquor stores and owning cell phone stores, and by them having a tight community, they were able to basically take over this sector of the too. And they also had tax leniency with the liquor store.
Tax leniency. How did they get that? Now understand, Detroit has a big Chaldean Arab community. I'm all right with a lot of them. I like their food too. And they got a lot of healthy options. So, I mean, get that understanding. Like I said, this is an institutional, this is a institution. What did I word? I'm getting tired. Institutional, not institutional, but what y'all know that word I'm trying to use. Structural conversation, talking about institutions. Okay. And it's important to know what he's saying is correct. Because how can your whole city become monopolized and you ain't in it? But hold on.
In every black community, you have a Pakistani or an Indian-owned convenience store attached to the gas station. You got an Arab-owned, you buy, we fry spot. You have a Vietnamese-owned nail tech spot. You have a Korean-owned beauty supply house. You have a Jewish or Caucasian-owned payday loan spot. Does any of them live where they get money? None of these foreign-owned entities support even the Pop Warner Football League or the basketball team or the Little League Baseball. They don't. You never even seen their names on the jerseys before. They do nothing for us. So we live in a colony right now, brother, and not a community. The people that own the property and the businesses don't live in the environment.
And extract everything out of it.
But a community is when the people that live in the environment own the property and the business and reinvest in that area because they are benefiting from it and they want to increase the value of it. We can't become a neighborhood again without keeping a dollar among ourselves.
Colonize. Byron Allen, and I got one video and I'm out of here. I'm gonna play the video all out and I'm out. Byron Allen sued a number of corporations under 1866, first Civil Rights Act for blacks, 1866, 42 USC, section 1981. Look him up. Charter One, Comcast, recently McDonald's, for billions. You're allowing your city to allow all these different people to come in and do business, which is cool because some of their services we need, but you're being left out because you won't use your rights and sue. As I said before, you got the full story here. Take it how you take it. Discern it how you discern it. Share it for some people that don't understand, that want to better understand it. But as I always say, I'm going to play this last joint and I'm gone. My people, we get next. And instead of challenging courts, institutions, and inherited legal frameworks, people began blaming groups of people for systems they did not design. That is how historical analysis collapses into accusation. Candace Owens is not wrong that something feels off. What she gets wrong is where it comes from. The problem is not Jews. The problem is not whites. And the problem is not black people. The problem is an ancient system that outlived the civilizations that created it and still governs outcomes
Between
today.
1476 and 1517, the Catholic Church turned forgiveness into a marketplace. Popes authorized the sale of indulgences that didn't just absolve past sins, they pre-approved future crimes. You could literally buy divine permission to kill. Under Pope Sixtus IV, the Vatican published the first official price list for sins. These were not rumors. They were written on papal parchment and sealed with the Pope's authority.
I'm sorry, y'all. That got broke up. I got to look this doggone thing. It's about to go out, man. Good Lord. I apologize. We've been on here talking so long. I'm going to run it back, y'all. And instead of challenging courts, institutions, and inherited legal frameworks, people began blaming groups of people for systems they did not design. That is how historical analysis collapses into accusation. Candace Owens is not wrong that something feels off. What she gets wrong is where it comes from. The problem is not Jews. The problem is not whites. And the problem is not black people. The problem is an ancient system that outlived the civilizations that created it and still governs outcomes
Between
today.
1476 and 1517, the Catholic Church turned forgiveness into a marketplace. Popes authorized the sale of indulgences that didn't just absolve past sins, they pre-approved future crimes. You could literally buy divine permission to kill. Under Pope Sixtus IV, the Vatican published the first official price list for sins. These were not rumors. They were written on papal parchment and sealed with the Pope's authority. Adultery, 4 gold ducats. Theft, 6 ducats. Murder of a commoner, 15 ducats. Murder of a noble, 25 ducats. Incest, 20 ducats. Sin had a menu. Violence had a receipt. Then came the Borgias, who industrialized corruption. Pope Alexander VI sold plenary indulgences. Total forgiveness for all sins, past and future, for 200 ducats. No limits, no questions, no repentance required. His son, Cesare Borgia, bought one for himself. Shortly after, he murdered 5 members of rival noble families in Rome. He carried written papal authorization. The permission was real. The blood was real. This wasn't just religion. It was finance. The powerful Fugger banking family of Germany bought indulgences in bulk directly from the Vatican, then resold them across Europe at 50% profit margins. German nobles purchased family packages, prepaying forgiveness for sins their children hadn't even committed yet. You could buy salvation wholesale. The Pope's chief salesman, Johann Tetzel, traveled town to town shouting his infamous slogan, "As soon as the coin clinks in the chest, the soul springs from purgatory into heaven." In just 40 years, the Vatican extracted the modern equivalent of $4 billion, selling divine forgiveness like a luxury commodity. The same church that preached, "Thou shalt not kill," was selling licenses to violate it, stamped, sealed, and approved as long as the money cleared. This wasn't faith. It was organized, monetized absolution, and it directly ignited the Protestant Reformation.
Again, man, I apologize to y'all. Man, this thing was about to go out on y'all, man. I'm like, whoa. I don't know what the hell what the hell I done did. But yeah, like I said, man, I apologize. And as before, man, you know, we got next. I'll talk to you guys soon, man.
This shit. They burnt kids. They did this. We can't even breathe. We got 0% of the wealth. I want to tap into, do any of y'all want to fight? The fuck? This is the fight. All that other shit, nah, we can get all that other shit. We get some motherfucking money and get some independence and start getting the resources so we can police our own communities. We can hire our own. Everything starts from money. We want to cure diabetes, you need money. You want to affect the wealth gap, you need money. You want to do education, you need anything. You need money. That's it. Everybody leave. If you don't have no money, you're just going to sit here and be a broke nigga with no money, talk about the same shit they was talking about 100 years ago. And I'm not doing that. This shit. They burnt kids. They did this. We can't even breathe. We got 0% of the wealth. I want to tap into, do any of y'all want to fight? The fuck? This is the fight. All that other shit, nah, we can get all that other shit. We get some motherfucking money and get some independence. And start getting the resources so we can police our own communities. We can hire our own. Everything starts from money. We want to cure diabetes, you need money. You want to affect the wealth gap, you need money. You want to do education, you need anything. You need money. That's it. Everybody leave. If you don't have no money, you're just going to sit here and be a broke nigga with no money, talk about the same shit they was talking about 100 years ago. And I'm not doing that.